negative comments can be good too, because it's not so much what they're saying negatively, but what you're saying positively in response to that. So if you get an angry customer, well, you can address the issue. Say, hey, we're even going to send you a free widget.
Welcome back to Beacon for Business, the podcast that illuminates the path to clear, structured financial systems for established CEOs, entrepreneurs, and startups. I'm Brett Spencer, owner of Spencer Business Advisory. I help companies strengthen their financial health and streamline operations. Today, I'm speaking with Terry Lorenz, a sales and marketing manager for a local company. Terry has a degree in marketing and information technology from Montana State University and more than 3 decades of expertise in sales, marketing, and customer success.
Yeah, I bet he's feeling pretty excited too.
Well, the proof will be in the pudding.
Yep. Absolutely.
Think so. So let's talk a little bit about a new company or a company that's just starting to trying to launch a new marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you start? Where would you start when you come into a company?
Well, I would think that if you're starting your company, by the time you get to this point, you've kind of figured out who your target market is, what kind of products you're providing to them. So there's a few things to consider. If you're a brick and mortar store, like you have a physical location, I think the very first thing you want to do is get set up with a Google Business account, right? Because nobody has a phone book anymore, right? And how I don't know what kind of percentage of the world uses something like Google to find a number or an address, right? So setting up a Google Business account, some things to kind of keep in mind there. Your address, of course, make sure everything's correct. Phone number, it allows you to detail your hours of business. But kind of the more important things would be, one, get a bunch of pictures up there. You want to constantly be refreshing the content. And furthermore, get reviews. Anytime you have a customer that you feel is a good experience, pointedly ask them to go to your Google business and leave a positive review. That will definitely get you showing up on the maps. If you sell widgets and you search for your location widgets, you want to make sure you're coming up on the map. You want to have lots of reviews on there, lots of positivity. If they go to your profile, lots of pictures that show what you do or what you offer. So that would be kind of step number one.
And just to interrupt you for a moment, and what you're talking about is either free or low cost tools. It's not going to be a huge investment. Is that correct?
Correct. Google Business is a free listing and doesn't cost you a penny, right? If you want to spend some money on maybe some better photos, images of what you've got going on, sure you can throw some money into there. But the first and most important thing is to make sure you've got a presence on Google so that people can find you. You could sell the most amazing product in the world, but if you don't get it out there where people can find it, it doesn't do you any good.
You don't want to be a closely guarded secret.
Exactly. So I think the next step would be to have a website developed, right? Something that is informative, draws people in, directs them through the site to the final end result, or that be a purchase or, a lead or an appointment, So those are kind of two things to consider. With the website, search engine optimization is key, right? When you're talking about search engines, relevance is the key. If your site isn't relevant to what your customers are searching for, it's not going to do you any good.
Give me the real brief description of what SEO is, what search engine optimization is for those people who maybe don't know what that is. What does it do?
Let's say you have a business that manufactures widgets and sprockets. Okay. You have a website that has a widget page, which is all about widgets, and you have a sprockets page, which is all about sprockets. Um, with search engine optimization, you want to make sure that your widget page is all widgets. This is what widgets are. This is what widgets do. Here's more stuff about widgets. Widgets, widgets. Same thing for the sprockets page. When somebody is searching in Google and they're searching for, let's say, widgets, um, you don't want to send that person to a sprockets page, right? Because it's not relevant to what they were searching for. So that's what I'm talking about.
Or you
You
don't
want to
want to
make
send
sure.
them to your competitors either. You
Well,
want to.
that too. Correct. Correct.
So my understanding of, and correct me if I'm wrong, um, part of SEO is if you go onto Google and you Google sprockets, you want to show up fairly high on the list. You don't want to be 10 or 15 pages back.
When dealing with relevance, and dealing with your competition in relevance, you want to be able to appear organically in Google. And what that means is you just want Google to know that your site is the most relevant site related to widgets and or sprockets, right? So how do you do that? Well, you talk about widgets and sprockets a lot, and you become a digital resource for everything to do with widgets and sprockets, right? So when Google is going out and doing its magic and indexing all these pages in the World Wide Web, um, for specifically the term widgets or sprockets, you want to make sure that your site is coming up on top. Um, because here's the reason. Organic doesn't cost you anything, right? With just some creative um, copywriting on your individual pages, if you can get into the first page and the top three results organically in Google, you're doing great. Um, Beyond that, you're going to have to pay, right? And get into something called pay per click advertising. Google is getting a lot of money by charging advertisers to pay for advertising space. So if you want to be the very first result in Google for widgets, anytime somebody types that word, it could cost you, I don't know. I think in our industry with our products, in Google, we're getting charged about $1.63 a click, which when you're getting 13,000 people clicking on that ad, that can really add up.
The key is you want a fair amount of those people to consummate a purchase. You want them to actually go in and buy something from you so that you can help pay for the Google ads.
Well, the money's got to come from somewhere, right? So if you're just getting started up and you're looking to bring in some revenue, paying for advertising, and Google's not the only show in town, right? Facebook has a very um, broad advertising suite that allows you to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. Um, Talking about average cost per click in our industry, on Facebook, we're getting charged about 6 cents per click. So 6 cents per click in Facebook versus $1.63 per click in Google. One of the things I like about Facebook is that demographically you can really narrow down your focus. So if you want, somebody in the top 10 percentage of income in the United States that really likes widgets, right? Then your ads will only show on users who have those criteria.
You can narrow it down. The other thing that when you and I worked together, one of the things we did after a few months, you came in and you set this up. We were doing Google ads and we were doing Facebook ads, and our sales improved because of that. We hadn't really had a social media presence before that. And one of the things that we did after a few months is we sat down and did some analysis of what we we're getting, how much return we were getting for each. And for that industry, um, I think we determined that the Google ads or the Google words weren't giving us as big a return as the Facebook ads. And so we cut down on the on Google and increased, put the money into Facebook. I know that other industries that's not necessarily the case. So I would strongly urge anybody who is doing this to do that work after you have some experience and after you have some data to determine where you're getting the bang for the buck, basically.
Absolutely. It's not a one size fits all sort of scenario. Every business has to take a personal look at their market, um, you know, how they have to distribute their information in the most effective way possible.
What's next? We've set up a website and we've got some social media um, stuff going on. What else? Either technological or not should be you'd be thinking about doing.
Well, speaking from personal experience in this company, we have been in operation for over 30 years, and in that time have collected a lot of customer information. So one of the things that we've done is branch out into direct email marketing. Um, not like the spam that everybody's afraid of, but these are people who have signed up for our newsletter or our previous customers, and we send um, fairly regular email blasts out to them, whether we're announcing a sale, um, product information, that kind of thing. We see a dramatic boost in sales after any given email campaign. So again, one size does not fit all, and that may not work for your company, but it works for ours. We sell product and we have very loyal customers. So we get a lot of repeat customers, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
With that company, a lot of the customers are government agencies, either military, federal, state, local law enforcement. So that creates its own little challenges for marketing.
Absolutely. And so beyond pay-per-click advertising, search engine optimization, getting into emails and that kind of thing, I think the next important thing is, what are you doing in social media, right? Does your company have a Facebook page? Does your company have an Instagram account, right? Are you doing TikTok? Again, not necessarily for everybody, but um, it's just up to each individual company to figure out how they want to go after their market. There's a lot of creative things you can do. Facebook, beyond advertising, you can put product demonstrations, you can engage people with questions. Instagram, more image based, but um, great opportunities for your customers to see your information, but also interact with you, either through like Facebook messaging or direct messaging and Instagram, um, commenting on your TikTok videos, right? That's what makes things go viral when people start commenting and sharing excitement and whatnot. So there's a lot of things you can do there to move your business on.
That non-solicited, I guess it is solicited to some extent, but the people who get on there and make comments, hopefully positive comments, that's great advertisement.
Well, negative comments can be good too, because it's not so much what they're saying negatively, but what you're saying positively in response to that. So if you get an angry customer who's complaining about some issue, well, you can address the issue, right? You can say, "Hey, we're even going to send you a free widget just because of your hassle," right?
And show in public, in the public eye, that you're willing to have that conversation and resolve it.
Yeah, yeah. Like they say, all press is good press, right?
So I know one of the other things that you did differently than any of the other sales and marketing folks that we had. You got more involved with the uh, local activity and trade shows and chamber of commerce and a lot of networking. That has its own value.
Well, I personally have just always been very pro local. Even if you work in a company that deals globally with the world, I think you have a responsibility to your local location to be active in the community, whether that's, joining the Chamber of Commerce, going to business after hours, doing some sort of charitable work, customer service, building things for the community. Um, and I like to go into trade shows. It's just, you know, a great opportunity for me to interact directly with people in our industry. Um, you know, good conversations and not so good conversations, but every conversation working towards the power of good, right?
The interaction and networking, I think, is huge.
Correct, correct. I think a lot of businesses that are more global can lose sight of the fact that, hey, we work and we live in this area, and what are we doing to, be an active member of our community?
So let's talk a little bit about price points, how you establish prices. I know I've got my my ideas and my criteria, or my uh, how I go about determining where a price should be. And my what I like is you have to know what your costs are. Number one, you have to have an accounting system that's functional enough that you have an accurate idea of what your costs are, what your cost per unit sold is, and then that gives you okay, if you're selling something for $50 and your cost is 25, you've got a 50% gross margin before overheads. Um, but the next thing that I think it's a two prong approach. You look at what your costs are and what you have to have out of it to turn a profit, but then you need to check where the market is, and that's where I, in my experience, the internet has become extremely valuable.
Yeah, I agree. Competitive analysis, and adjusting your prices, which, let's just be honest, never ends, right? In our industry specifically, our material is more of a commodity and it changes price almost on a daily basis. Um, when you've got several hundred different products that you provide, it's a lot of work to keep an eye on everything, making sure that we're getting accurate costing reports and pricing accordingly, right? So it's this careful balance between, what can we sell it for and make money, but still be competitive in the market with our competition.
The things that I always ask myself and talk to the ownership and management team about was, uh, where do we want to be? Do we want to be the low cost provider? We want to be the highest, the premium provider? Or do we want to place ourselves somewhere in between?
Well, from the sales and marketing standpoint, I just want to sell it for the price that'll make us the most money. You know, whether you price it low and you sell in volume, or you price it high and you sell by quality, right? There's got to be a fine line between those two where you're hitting that sweet spot and you're keeping everybody happy.
One of the things we ran into, though, is especially when we were selling, we had a lot of sales to the government. Good, you have a new purchasing officer that comes in and they're shopping price, and it didn't matter that we were the big name in the industry for those products. They shop price, and so um, we didn't have the opportunity to have the conversation. They just issued it to the lowest bidder. It's kind of the old the old joke of, you have all these parts on the space shuttle and they're all put together by the lowest bidder.
That's the government, right? And you're always going to struggle with that because they don't tell you what the competition is charging. Right. And at least in our regard, we know we're maybe a little higher than our competition just because our quality is better. So in a lot of those cases, yeah, we're probably getting beat on price. But we've got, as I said, a pretty loyal customer base, and a lot of that loyalty is in the federal government. And so in those cases, yeah, it's our name that gets us the sale. But yeah, price is always going to be a dilemma. It just that's business.
One of the things that I always that I think is necessary is you have to be nimble, and hopefully you've got the bandwidth and you've got the margin to work with where you can be nimble if you need to come down a couple of points on a price to get a sale. Um, but the key is to be able to have that conversation in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, and I think having proper costing is what is the most important thing. You know, but yeah, who knows what the margin is when you don't know how much it costs you to produce what you're producing, you know?
Well, and you'd be surprised how many companies that I've seen that don't really know what their costs are,
Well,
or what
you
their
know,
direct
we
costs
have our
are.
struggles with that too. I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard when you're factoring in overhead and labor and
Well, and
you know,
when you have inflation, when you have um, times when product costs or input costs go through the roof because of, I mean, we went through the COVID uh, epidemic and everything.
we're still going through the COVID
Yeah,
epidemic.
everything got really expensive,
Yep.
uh, and then you know there's lots of things that can affect costs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got inflation, we've got tariffs, right? That hit us pretty hard in our industry. Uh, and it all adds up.
So that influencer marketing is more social media type stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, when with the age of TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and all those things, there are people who have a pretty strong following, right? And if you have, we'll call them an influencer that has 2.6 million followers who see every video that they produce, if you can work out a collaboration with them saying, "Hey, I used your widget and oh my gosh, this is the best widget I have ever used and it does everything that a widget is supposed to do." And that gets out to 2.6 million people, right? You can see what kind of effect that would have on your business. So, I would say get out there and encourage, find influencers who are active in whatever your industry is and, see if you can work up an agreement. A lot of times it's you sending them free material, which, I mean, if the results are positive, if you're getting a good return out of it, then hey, it makes sense.
I know that I have one caveat to that, and it's just basic business and understanding what you're getting for what you're paying for. Prior to your arrival to the company, we had some big names in the industry that we paid. We were paying them a monthly fee to go out and say good things and write articles and um, give interviews and promote our products at any chance they got when they had the media in front of them. One of the things you have to be careful about, and one of the things we ran into is that you have to make sure that they're earning what they're being paid, and not just you're just a you're another person who is sponsoring them. That they have to actually, as a business, you have to make sure you hire people in those roles that are actually going to go out and do things that you're paying them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that having a strong plan in place to start is key. What with very specific uh, uh, quantifiable results that you're expecting, right? And if they're not hitting those um, KPIs, then you can reevaluate your relationship. Every influencer is different, right? But they're all out to serve themselves, and they're going to do what they can to make it best for them. So it's just making sure you set up certain milestones, like if I'm going to give you 15 widgets, then I expect to have, X number of posts about it. I, want to see posts on Facebook, in addition to videos on TikTok, and just have that quantifiable so that you're not just giving away free stuff and then, they decide to move on and do something else.
The key thing is, I think, is to have a written agreement where you've laid out the expectations of both parties, and then you can hold each other accountable for those things.
Yep, agreed. Another thing to consider, especially in today's age, is the advent of artificial intelligence. I'm sorry, artificial intelligence, and using things like Chat GBT and Grammarly, right, can really help you to um, maximize your marketing um, content, right? With like a chat bot is becoming very popular, where if somebody comes to your site, a little message pops up. So, do you have a question? And would have an AI behind that being able to answer general questions that the customers might be asking. Because how many people, oh, sorry, Brett, but how many people come to your website, take a look at something, but just can't figure out the answer to their question and they just leave, right? They just go back to Google and they start searching somewhere else. So by having something actively capturing that experience, right? Do you have a question? Let me know what it is, right? And depending on how robust your answer database is, that can certainly help you either save or add to a sale.
I know we used to get a lot of, when I was working there, we used to get a lot of complaints and concerns from customers saying, we've gone to your website, but we don't know where to go, and we can't find what we're looking for. And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume that AI would be a big solution for that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of frequently asked questions now are run specifically by AI, and they can do, well, darn near anything. But you can just, if it can't answer the question, give it the sales number and have them reach out. I would much rather have somebody call me on the phone than leave the website and go somewhere else. One of the things that I've instituted lately, we deal with a lot of, we'll call them clubs, organizations who have members, to 300 to 1,000 or more. We've offered them the ability to provide to their uh, membership a custom coupon code that their members can use to purchase from our website. When they use that code, they save 10% on our products. But beyond that, we keep track of those sales. So whenever that club's total of all sales related to that coupon code exceeds $10,000, we give them a $500 credit towards the purchase of more widgets.
So we used discount codes a lot. And sounds like you still are. One of the huge benefits of using discount codes, and you specify the code for the event, if it's a trade show or whether it's anything, is it gives you the analytics to determine what the results were. You can go back and pull the data out of the system for everything that was purchased on that code, and the profit, hopefully the profit that was incurred for that. So it kind of tells you, so you're not always in the dark, that you're not just throwing marketing information against the wall and hoping something sticks and then don't really know if it's stuck or not.
Well, from the sales and marketing side, you got to be kind of accountable, right? Everybody wants to know, hey, we just had a big sale. Big sale. How do we do? So using the coupon codes, it's super easy. And whatever your sales management system is to say how many orders did I sell during this period that used this coupon code. So absolutely. And from the loyalty program, um, that works really well. Because it's a great talking point for me to reach out to the organizers of these organizations and say, hey, just want to let you know, you are 75% of the way towards your $10,000 um, you know, point. And just to remind you, you guys get some free stuff.
Give them a little nudge.
Yeah, exactly. And then they encourage their membership to purchase things. And um, for us, it's about just you know, uh, building the industry, right? And anything we can do to add to that, because of course, that just means more people buy our products.
Well, I would think that staying engaged in the industry also. I mean, don't rest on your laurels. Don't say don't come to the conclusion that they're the best company in the industry, and then so I don't need to pay attention to what else is going on.
Well, I mean, there is some of that, of course, but no, it's about keeping engaged, right? And in our particular industry, our widgets get used a lot and frequently need to be replaced. Not that we have a substandard product, but I mean, if you knew what we did, you'd understand.
There's wear and tear.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But those people come back, and why? Because our products last longer than darn near everybody else's. So we make really good widgets.
And for educational purposes, um, before your arrival, much before your arrival, we suffered from that. We told ourselves that we were the best in the industry, and while we were thumping our chest, we had a lot of competitors enter the market, and they beat us up pretty bad in social media before we finally decided that social media was something that we need to be doing. So we lost some market share for that.
We spent a lot of times thumping our chests and telling ourselves that we were the best, but we weren't telling anybody else. And I think that was the key. Um, but once we started doing stuff on social media, once we started doing some paid advertising, our sales rose significantly.
And stay nimble with new technology. I mean, social media has been around for a while now, but AI is picking up steam, and the world's starting to change because of AI. And so, how can your company use that to benefit and to be profitable?
Yeah, and I can't. I mean, with a lot of companies, they'll say, "Well, we've been doing this for 10 years and it's been working fine," right? But that's not the case. I think that you have to be able to be dynamic and grow organically and keep pace with the technology. I mean, how many people right now are starting to get that little message on their computers saying that your processor will not support Windows 11, and you were stuck with a computer that is stuck on Windows 10, which is not being supported anymore, right? That's just a real world right now example of, as a business, what happens when 90% of your computers aren't going to be supported anymore, right? So you got to kind of keep abreast.
So if you started your company 5 or 10 years ago, and now you're looking at 20 computers to replace, it starts looking like real money.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Beyond that, website platform, right? What kind of e-commerce solution do you have? How outdated is that, right? Something I'm kind of struggling with now. There's only so much that this system that was put together, 10 years ago, just doesn't have the chops for dealing with now.
I can tell you exactly when it was. it was it was 6 years ago, and we thought that we thought we found the secret formula because it was so much better than we had before. But now there's something out there. Now there's something out there that's better than what it is.
Well, I know like Micron back when they made laptops, were selling on the selling point of this is the last computer you're ever going to need, right? Uh, but that was when, 4 megabytes was something huge, right? Now you can get an SD card with over a terabyte on. Technology advances, and the rate of advancement these days is astronomical. So definitely keeping an eye on technology, making sure that your processes are up to date, key.
The good thing about technology is it tends to get less expensive. The bad thing is you have to replace it more often. But I remember the first desktop computer I bought, dating myself a little bit, had 1 meg of RAM and 1 meg of memory, and it was a beast.
Was that before or after they were switching to horse-drawn carriages?
I think the buggy whip business had just gone under. Uh, you know, it was before Windows, and Windows changed everything because all of a sudden you needed a lot more horsepower to run the GUI environment. But I think it was $5,000 for that machine. But that machine was built to last until
Until
the
it wasn't.
technology until the technology passed it by.
Yep,
Now you can buy
absolutely.
a decent laptop for $100,000 or a
Hmm.
desktop for quite a bit less than that. So
Yeah. So the technology is important. Um, Being able to do analytics for your performance is also grown a lot, right? With Google Analytics, you can track darn near any aspect of traffic that you want. You can find out which marketing methods are providing traffic to the website, how long people are staying on the website, where they came in, where they left, right? There's a lot of things you can determine. Geography is important. And you can get a real-time snapshot of every person that's accessing your website and what part of the world they're accessing it from. So that's important information. You want to know, where are people coming into the website? How long are they staying on? If they're getting to this page and they're leaving after 5 seconds, what do you need to change on that page to make them stay longer?
what pushed them away? What made them leave before they made the purchase?
Exactly. But that's the wonderful thing about technology now, because you can actually easily get that information and make real-time changes to the website to try to adjust that.
The other thing that's a little scary, uh, the big brother thing watching over you is geofencing. So if you're selling widgets and Walmart, for instance, has a widget department, you can set it up to when that person with their smartphone in their pocket or their purse walks into that department, you have all their information to market to them. So uh, that's another strategy.
Well, when you think about Google and every digital instance that Google has access to, if you're advertising there, then you're showing up on YouTube, you're showing up on Google Maps. Um, you can have it keyed to like previous customers, right? I can load up a list of my previous customers, and if they use Google, then it knows to target them with relevant ads at appropriate times, right? So that's Big Brother is well, Big Brother is there, right? And they're always grabbing demographic information anytime you fill out a form online, anytime you do a Google search, right? If you're logged into your Google account, it's keeping track of that, right? It's all about data, and the data is out there. So as a business owner, you can use that data.
Thank you very much, Terry. This has been really informative, and I appreciate your time and your generosity to join us today.
It's been absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me.
If you'd like to talk to me about some of your business issues, or if you have a startup you're thinking about, you can reach out to me. I've got a website at spencerbusinessadvisory.one. That's spencerbusinessadvisory.one, or you can and that gives the information on how to contact me. If you have any questions after watching today's episode, reach out to us. You can contact us through YouTube, make comments on YouTube, or send me an email, or go to my website and send me an email from there, and we will address it.